This is the Breakfast Grille. I'm Lynn Mark. The digital revolution is no longer on the way. It's here and has only been accelerated by a global pandemic, forcing employees to work from home. And the digitalization of company operations is more necessary than ever. So one company facilitating that transformation is human capital management solutions and technology provider Ramssol Group. Ramssol is headed for a listing on the ACE market on July 13th. So in line with that, this morning I'm speaking with its Group Managing Director and CEO, Clement Tan. Clement, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Lynn. Good morning, everyone.
So before we get into your IPO plans, the big topic here is COVID-19. So tell us how it has affected your operations, because from my understanding, the effects are twofold. So your IT augmentation staff are unable to work, and that represents nearly 40% of your revenue. And of course, marketing staff can't visit offices in order to sell your HCM solutions and products. So how are you getting around this?
Okay, so agreed. So in fact, actually, the industry has been impacted by the COVID. Okay, that's why I'm aware. But the thing is that blessing in disguise, if you're looking at our HCM solutions, our marketing team, our sales team are not able to actually going out to actually sell our product, especially the human capital management and the student management solution. But however, because our business for human capital management and student management systems is being stabilized throughout the whole last 10 years. And by all means, our customer is all the MNC customers. And yet, those people have actually engaged our solution, like human capital management solution or the student management solution. They actually, right after the implementation, they engaged us to support their application. So that will actually not much impact our business for the human capital management solution and the student management solution, because by all means, like all the HR still need to using the system to run their payrolls, to run the employees still need to submit the leave application, claim management, and also performance management, or even performing the recruitments. So likewise, also for the student management solution, the students still need to access to the system in order to download the course materials, to perform the admissions and to perform the payments, student recordings, and and so forth, and the timetable or schedulings, right? So with that, actually, the business doesn't much get impacted because the customers still, engaging us in terms of the support and maintenance of the system.
But that would be the recurring revenue for the business, right? So in terms of acquiring new clients, I assume that would be somewhat more difficult if you aren't able to actually visit them and visit their premises in person.
That's right. But however, because normally our project is talking about 2 to 3 years, that's one. So we have a lot of ongoing project is actually in place. And also, we are actually rolling out to other countries for our customers. And the moment that the contract is signed, basically, there's not much impact because the amount and the project, we're still able to. The best part is that we can actually work from home remotely and implement it for customer. In terms of acquiring a new customer, that's not really true because we still actually obtain some new contract for provisions of the human capital management solution and the student management solution. Reason being because a lot of budget will be cut for the customers, indeed. Yes, but however, the customer always been thinking about we should start to digitalizations, right? So a lot of customers thinking that they used to be having a manual in terms of their HR and student system, but due to the pandemic, they lead them to no choice but to digitalize and actually engaging us to run a implementation for this project for them. In a smaller scale, start with a smaller scale, at least the fundamental or the essential modules, like payroll, like leave, it have to be goes as digitalized. Right.
So if you're taking into account what you said, that a lot of your projects run for a period of about 2 to 3 years, there has to be, I presume, some ongoing efforts to replenish your existing supply of projects. So presumably you have some kind of target to that end. Have the amount of new clients that you've acquired so far in 2020, have you managed to meet those targets?
Yep. In fact, yes. If you look at our revenue segments in the year of 2019 and 2020 in this provision of human capital management and student management solution, if you look at our financial result last year, we actually increased a significant percentage compared to 2019. Okay, so that is actually telling that our revenue growth means that our business is doing well. Looking at the digitalizations, because we actually coming out with another new line of business, which is provision of HCM technologies, IT application technologies, which consists of selling LAC, Feats, and Zoom.
And we'll get into more about Feats particularly. But before that, you touched, Clement, on revenue growth. And Ramssol did see quite impressive revenue growth between 2020 to 2019. Last year, you charted 25.3 million ringgit in revenue compared to 15.4 million. So that's a significant jump. And you're also running gross profit margins of over 60% last year. I'm wondering, how sustainable is this? Because when we talk about the growth of digital services and HCM solutions like yourself, are you eventually going to hit critical mass? I mean, help me understand the longevity of your business, because you're also a bit of a niche market player here.
Right. So perhaps I will explain this sustainability mode in terms of 3 different lines of business that I have. So speaking of which, human capital management and also student management solutions, if you can see that everyone go to digitalizations, right? And if you can see from this segment revenue from 2019 and to 2020, ever since we hit the pandemic, it doesn't impact much. And eventually, you have a slight increase in terms of the revenue in the business, right? Because by all means, like I mentioned, people still need us to support their system, and people still need to go digitalize for the human resource and also the student management solution. So speaking of IT staff augmentation, IT staff augmentation is going to be boom, regardless whether there's a pandemic or no pandemic. The reason because we are supplying the IT professionals to all our customers, for example, AIA, Oracles, or CapitaLand, right? So the reason why I would say this is going to be a boom in terms for these segments of revenue, because everyone now seems like they want to have a digitalized for everything in-house, right? And by all means, because we are actually very specialized in providing IT professional to our customers, so as such, they actually keep on increasing the demand to ask us to supply more IT professional so that we can, because we understand the customer needs, what kind of apps, what kind of system they want to develop, and we actually provide the augmentation, the staff to these people. Okay, and thirdly, the provisions of HCM or IT technologies. So we refer to lab, Feats, and Zoom. So this definitely is sustainable. As you can see that, today our conference or our interview is actually set at Zoom. I suppose that everyone here believes that even after pandemic or, everyone is going to the new norm. And with this new norm, basically, everyone been used to using like Zoom or a social collaboration platform, and by all means, this would be a long-last subscription from our customers. Right.
But looking at the services that you provide specifically, I mean, yes, the demand for this kind of thing and these kind of digital services is expected to continue. But at some point, aren't you concerned that the big enterprise resource planning players, the likes of SAP and even the likes of Oracle, may expand into your niche? I mean, because they have certainly more in the way of resources than you would, I imagine.
Not really, because what happened is that Oracle is one of our solution providers. Okay, so the customer actually choosing us is not because we are good in implementing Oracle systems, right? The customer is choosing us because of our experience and our knowledge in the human capital management or student management solutions, right? So when we provide the consultancy to our customers, so basically they will actually why they actually choose us, because we provide a very good framework and business process flow with the better streamlining for the customers. And then we only recommend the solutions to the customers to implement on or go digitalizations. Okay, so comparatively, let's say, if our firm compared to big boys like KPMG, Accenture or Deloitte. So all these are actually a large MNC. As a result, actually through our specialization, lean and what they call nimble set up, so we believe it differentiates us to compete with them at the local level, okay? And that's actually to explain how high margin as a result of our cost competitiveness, okay? Because the large MNC, they actually have more, more resources and running in a higher cost. But likewise, actually, we are running at a lower cost compared to them, and yet the customer get the premium services just like what they did from other big boys.
I'm speaking with Clement Tan, Group Managing Director and CEO of Ramssol Group. Stay tuned, BFM 89.9.
You are listening to the BFM Breakfast Grille, brought to you by U Mobile.
On the Breakfast Grille this morning is Clement Tan, Group Managing Director and CEO of Human Capital Management Solutions and Technology Provider, Ramssol Group. Now, Clement, so far we haven't quite touched on your IPO, which is scheduled at the moment for the 13th of July. Now, in your listing, you're hoping to raise 25.1 million ringgit. This is on the ACE market. It seemingly makes you the first Malaysian-owned HCM company to publicly list. A big portion of these proceeds have been earmarked for regional expansion, specifically highlighting the Philippines. And I'm wondering, why the Philippines?
The reason why, because of our goal and also our business strategy, and it's always being trying to be the leading human capital management solutions throughout the whole Southeast Asia. If you see our presence, we started in Malaysia, Singapore, then we have Thailand, then we have Vietnam, and now we have Indonesia. Okay, but one of the countries that is missing is to cover the whole Southeast Asia is Philippines. And the thing is that because our customers, if you have seen our prospectus or our clientele, is a large MNC, and some of them is the financial institutions. So we need to cover all the countries that our customer have present as well. Okay, that is one of the reasons that why we need to set up the Philippines, because nowadays Philippines is a booming market. And a lot of customers of our financial institution customers or property customers, they're actually expanding to Philippines. And by all means, we have to be there as well.
Do you expect Philippines also to be a significant contributor ultimately? And in kind of what kind of time frame are we looking at?
We are so based on the histories, like the track history that we have, for example, like Indonesia, right? Indonesia is the recent country that we set up. And in fact, actually, once we actually setting up in Indonesia, we actually obtained 2 huge projects in Indonesia, where serving one of the company is telco and one is a tobacco company as well, in implementing a human capital management solution within 6 months, or maybe within a year of our establishment. So the same thing, we also having the expectation. The best part is that because the moment that we set the Philippines, we will be actually managing and contacting all our customer base and telling them that we are ready in Philippines and so forth. You can consider to use us, because we already supporting all your other countries except Philippines.
So Philippines is on the radar now, but what other countries are perhaps on the cards for Ramssol?
So the moment that actually, that's what my thoughts, it's not in concrete yet, but right after the Philippines, there would be a expansion to some other countries, especially in Middle East, and also some other countries in Asia.
Why not China?
Why not China? That's a good question. Reason why, because you see, the thing is that the product that we actually carried a lot of time is coming from big MNCs, okay? And also China-wise, is pretty much a lot of competitors. And also, speaking of which, in China, we will be a lot of big boys is there, and China is growing. But it never stopped us to go there as well. It definitely is one of the countries that in Asia that we will consider.
So then looking at the solutions that you do provide, I mean, of your stable, I mean, you resell subscriptions of Zoom, you are one of the Oracle Partner Network. You are also licensed to provide Lark, which is based out of Singapore. And you have your own proprietary software, which is Feats. It's currently only offered in Malaysia and Indonesia. I'm curious where else you're looking to expand it to.
So, of course, our plan is with all the countries that we have presence, right? So, right after Malaysia and Indonesia, we are looking forward to Thailand, Vietnam, and also Singapore and Philippines. Okay, the reason why we actually haven't expanded to that country yet, because we want to be Malaysia as a role models, and also so that, we need to be very successful in Indonesia and Malaysia before we actually rolling out to other countries. And one thing actually stopping us for Feats to rolling out is not of the limitation of the systems of not able to roll out, but it's because of setting up an office of Feats or maybe establishment of Feats company in other country is a challenge now due to pandemic, where we can't fly and where they need a director to personally or physically to be there to sign some of the documents, right? So with all that consideration, basically now we are actually focusing on getting Feats to be more well established, and also in the countries like Malaysia and Indonesia. And speaking of which, also if you can see our proceed, we will be heavily invest in the R&D of Feats, so that, we want to boom the market, in a sense that impress the market where we are ready in Thailand, and the new AI that we're going to develop is also be ready there. Right.
So then, in terms of strengthening the presence of Feats here in Malaysia and Indonesia, last count was 4 organizations in Malaysia and 4 organizations in Indonesia that were using Feats. How many more then are you targeting in terms of organizations, and of course also in terms of subscribers here in your existing markets?
In fact, actually, we are looking forward to 5 to 10% of the total workforce in Malaysia and Indonesia respectively. So we are talking about a huge number, over multi-millions or billions kind of dollars subscriptions in the near future.
How are you going to get there? What's been the response from existing companies when presented with Feats? And what are your strategies in order to get it to become more widespread?
So I think how to get there is through educations, and also because now the whole trends, they actually aware how engagement is so important, right? And during this pandemic, a lot of people actually trying to think about engagement is very important, because they want to regain the reputation of the company. That being said, because a lot of companies, sorry to say that, they have a lot of retrenchment, and the company employee doesn't feel that they get recognized and get empowered or engaged. So with that, after we presentation to a few of our customers, they found that, with this tool, we're able to boost up the morality and also the productivity of the employees, even though they are working remotely.
I want to understand also the kind of margins that you can command from Feats versus from Lark and from Zoom and the other solutions that you provide. Presumably your own software, your margins would be higher, right?
Right, about 90%.
Okay. In terms of the actual solutions that you are providing right now to your client base, Feats doesn't make up a very large proportion of that overall business. So in terms of revenue contribution to the company, chart for us the growth of Feats that you foresee over the next few years.
Okay. So the growth for Feats over the next few years, like I mentioned, we actually quite confident it's going to be very significant, and also a huge jump in terms of our revenue. Reason being because, like I mentioned, the reason people knowing how engagement is important. Secondly, if you can see that the AI that we expand, and most importantly, if you realize the recent news that we have launched, Zoom have already been working together with Feats, and we are the first apps that integrated with Zoom in the whole Southeast Asia. So it's like a better, the whole package and the ecosystem will be much better, because Zoom by right is just like social collaborations or video conferencing or voice conferencing. But with engagement integrated with Zoom, the customer will see that the value and even more efficiency.
What's to say, though, that big companies, SAP, for example, may not similarly implement these kinds of indexes, looking at employee happiness in their own existing ERP software? There are also other kind of digital healthcare apps that are on the rise that are looking at this. So why would companies specifically choose Feats over the other options that they have in the system?
That's good questions. In fact, actually, some of the big players of the software providers, actually, they're coming out with the engagement modules as well. Even say that Oracles, right? But the thing is that because we provide more total solutions, in the sense that because Feats is not only able to measure, but at the same time, we cover employees, how they actually can get benefited from this system, which is there's a rewards and coins being awarded to the employees the moment they actually complete a certain activities or all the activities in Feats. And in exchange of the points, they can actually redeem all the vouchers, and also, all the vouchers from our brand partners. Okay, so, but unlike like others like Oracles or, other software providers, they actually provide a modules rather than being finding a brand partners to work with. We're not only doing that, but actually our measurement is actually in putting a lot of effort, the algorithm of measurement is putting a lot of effort and working with 6 professors in UPUM, Malaysia, to come up with this kind of like sentiment. And most importantly, the kind of algorithm and the measurement that we're coming out is very tailored to Southeast Asia now. In terms of, because, you know, every different countries, every different people having a different behavior and sentiments and personalities, right? So Asian being Asian, Southeast Asian people or versus Europeans people or US people is very different. So to penetrate into this Southeast Asia, we need to understand the landscape and also the peoples in these particular regions.
Would you say that would you expect that there may be larger partnerships in store with the big ERP firms, or even perhaps a buyout in the future of Ramssol?
I would say yes.
That's the eventual end game, is that it?
Maybe, perhaps.
Okay, well, that's obviously in the future, looking into a crystal ball a little bit. But just coming back to the point that you were making about understanding kind of your client base and understanding the specific mentalities here in Southeast Asia. Looking at your client list, right, Clement? I mean, your strategy appears to be targeting large local companies, some MNCs, but an interesting name here, the most recent revenue contributor and a significant revenue contributor to Ramssol is Megatech, which is a TVET institution. So I'm curious whether this represents a new strategic direction for you, or is this more of a one-off?
Correct. There's actually a new direction, because if you can see that we have 3 lines of business, and now we are actually venturing into IT-related training. Okay, so Megatech being the largest vocational school in Malaysia. Okay, so what happened is that they realized when we actually brought in LAT, okay, this product, and we have actually configured LAT to fit into the student education systems, okay, in a portable way, unlike like Oracle, you know, student management system. So Megatech being one of our customers, and they actually using this lab and also to manage video conferencing, hybrid mode of teaching remotely, as well as what we have configured for lab to Megatech is like student assessment, e-certification, timetabling, and so forth, time attendance, and so forth and so forth. Okay, with these success stories, okay, being said, you know, we eventually attract a lot of something similar like Megatech training providers or education now starting to inquiries on using lab to teach their students remotely. Okay, so IT-related training we see is a trend and is a future. That's why we are actually venturing into this business. And eventually, without much investment, or also, you know, eventually it works. Okay, from the last year, what we have actually observed.
You've got a lot of interesting things planned, Clement. I'll just ask you one last question, which is that you're going to be listing on the ACE market on the 13th of July. Do you expect a graduation to the main market? And if so, by when?
That's good questions. Yes, of course, we are looking forward. However, you know, all these things is we need a proper planning and also a strategic planning. So our immediate focus now is to be listed to enable us to foster a more closer relationship with the investment community and increase the awareness of our organization to the business world. So seeking an upgrade to main market may be considered in the longer term, but we will go through all the factors involved before coming to a decision.
Do you have a rough timeline that you can share with us?
Pretty much fast.
Fast, right? Okay.
We'll update accordingly anyway.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with us this morning, Clement. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
My pleasure too. Thanks, Lee.
I've been speaking with Clement Tan, Group Managing Director and CEO of Ramssol Group. This has been The Breakfast Grille. I'm Lynn Mark, BFM 89.9.